Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about politics. Not that this is going to be a political video, this is going to be, if anything, an apolitical political video. I want to talk a little bit about how we can try and shut out the noise that comes from the internet. Anytime I go on my YouTube, right, it's just endless, politics, BBC News, Fox News, CNN, or political YouTube channels, you know, those reactionary type things. Not like reactionary as in the right-wing thing, I just mean literally like reacting to the new political events of the day. And you just get loads of them, and they're all so long, and they're all so in depth. And the thing with politics is that you could spend your entire life dedicated to politics, as many people have, to try and figure out just one particular issue. And you could spend your whole life researching it and analysing it and studying it, and you'll never get to the bottom of it because there is so much going on. There is so much of a deep well of angles that you can approach political situations from, that it just becomes so intimidating to actually get into that general space. And it's very easy to get involved in politics now because, I mean, we all kind of do it. You end up clicking on a couple, you know, real life law videos and thinking that you're a geopolitical bloody guru because you sort of think about how Turkey and Greece have the little border disputes over the islands that are kind of around there, and like how Greece has loads of islands that are like right up to the Turkish border, which means that Turkey doesn't have as free access to their own coastline as they perhaps ought to, or whatever. I'm not taking sides with that, by the way. That's another issue of politics. It feels hard to actually discuss politics without inherently taking one side or the other on any particular issue. And it's really difficult as well because with politics, it's such a touchy subject that you're never going to please everybody. And I find that when I'm out with friends and stuff, and when it gets onto the political thing, my mind goes either one of two ways, and it depends on how political I'm actually feeling. I'm either up for a bit of political discussion or I'm not, and my mind just kind of goes like that. And like, you know, you start hearing like Donald Trump this, Keir Starmer this, Xi Jinping this, bloody all of this sort of stuff. And your mind just kind of goes a little bit, oh God, because it's not that you don't have thoughts and feelings about all these issues, but what is airing those issues going to do? It's not like we're actually going to change anything from having our little discussion on the latest little issue. You know, and how important is it to stay politically aware? I mean, it is, obviously. It's good to stay aware of what's going on in the world, to be conscious of the fact that, you know, we live in a place where we might not have to deal with civil wars or, you know, genocides going on in our back garden, stuff like that, which can feel quite nice. And that's a very low bar for what should count as nice. There's not a genocide going on around here, so we're doing all right. But you know, like it's just quite difficult to actually air your general opinion on the political landscape as a whole, because it kind of insinuates that you might feel one way or the other. And I feel like just from watching this video, you might be able to get a sense that I feel one way or the other. And I don't want it to be a video about that. I want it to be a video where it's just discussing the fact that, are we not all a little bit sick of this endless fucking conversation that seems to be going on indefinitely? And, you know, I mean, it feels a bit like it started in 2016 with the first, with Brexit and Donald Trump's first election. And then it just kind of carried on, and then COVID just like turned it into hyper drive, you know, and it keeps going, and there's always a new issue, there's always a new thing, there's always a new school shooting in America, there's always a new riot, there's always a new war that's beginning, there's always something going on that we can't get away from, that we need to have some, like, not necessarily need to have some kind of opinion on, but, you know, I think it's good to stay informed of what's going on and to try and look into the issue and see what's going on, what people are saying, who do you agree with, that kind of thing, because I don't know. As time sort of continues, I find myself ebbing and flowing across the political sort of landscape. Generally, I'm on the left side, but I just find myself a little bit sort of frustrated with the fact that it's just so hard to escape politics now. The political discussions sometimes feel a bit inevitable with people, and it's not that I don't like political discussions. I do, and with people that I truly like, I trust. I really like having those discussions where I feel like I can comfortably air any opinion that I might have. And it's not like I have any like really bad, awful, nasty opinions. I mean, I've done videos, I think, where it should be quite clear that, you know, I'm fairly all right in terms of politics. I'm not like some kind of mad alt-right bloody guy. I'm not some like deep down closet racist or anything like that. But, you know, I mean, I don't really want this, for instance, to be a political channel. I don't want to discuss politics. I don't want it to be about that in particular. But also, sometimes there is an issue that's just kind of like, you know, it feels almost wrong to stay silent on it because you've got a bit of a platform. So why not try and use that platform? I mean, what, do I just try and start fundraisers for every new issue that's going on? Can we be conscious of every issue going on at the same time? Like, for instance, with the Palestine protests at the moment, a lot of people find an annoyance in the Palestine protesters because, you know, there's the M13 thing going on in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There's Boko Haram in Nigeria. There's the Xinjiang, the Uyghur people in China. You know, there's the Mexico border. There's some problems going on there. Apparently there's some problems going on in Argentina. There's problems going on everywhere, you know. And, you know, so people get annoyed that people are focusing just on this one issue, like they're, you know, doing it as a, quote, virtue signaling to try and show that they're such good people. But at the same time, is it possible to be clear and conscious and condemning of every single issue that's going on? And to evenly spread all that? Or is it better to concentrate all of that energy into one issue and sort one issue out, get that sorted, and then do the next one? And obviously we're not sorting any issues out, it feels like. We're not sorting things out, and that's kind of the problem. And how much does talking about it really help? How much does starting a little fundraiser for some charity really help? How much do these things aid the people that are actually struggling? And what does me coming on talking about how I can't be bothered to talk about politics, what does that do? What does that help for anything? The best that can happen is someone else can relate to this and kind of go, yeah, I agree with that. But what's that going to do? Is it going to do anything? If I get someone to be more comfortable in their own skin and not worry so much about the larger cultural zeitgeist, is that an improvement to the world? It's an improvement to that one person. Say you managed to do that with all 8 billion people, then what? If no one cared about politics, you would obviously need some people to care about politics because stuff still needs to happen. Tax laws need to get passed, roads need to get built, democracy needs to continue, you know, trade needs to happen, global infrastructure needs to be upheld. So we obviously need to get all that sort of stuff done. But I think with the internet and, you know, the algorithm kind of pushing out like, you know, targeted propaganda to certain people. Like if you ever go to your grandparents' house and you go on their computer and you see their YouTube recommendeds compared to yours, and you just think, bloody hell, they live in a different world where there's different issues that are going on. Like that, on my side, they don't talk about this sort of stuff, but on their side, they don't talk about the stuff that we talk about. So we're all kind of talking past each other about different issues, and someone will go, yeah, well, what about this issue? And then someone will respond with, well, yeah, but what about this more important issue? And then someone will go, yeah, but what about this even more important issue? And yes, so every issue has some level of importance, even from local to national to international. And I'd like to sort them all, please, really. I'd like to end the war in Palestine. I'd like to end the war in Ukraine, in Ukraine's favour. I'd like to end, you know, all the terrible problems that are going on, like the Uyghur thing. I'd like to sort all these issues out. And there's another problem, is with the wording. You've got to be so careful with the wordings. As I was saying that, I felt like, oh, maybe the fact I didn't call the Uyghur thing a genocide, or maybe the fact that I said the end of the war in Ukraine, that implies that I'm like one of those pro-Russian sort of guys, which I'm not. That just want to end, that use peace as a bit of like a dog whistle just for letting the Russians win. And it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how to sort that out. I don't know how to, like, I really do kind of not look up to or idolize or like really even respect, but you know, like the political commentators, how they're able to do this day in and day out and like so on, and talk about these things in really specific detail and so confidently as well. I don't know how they do it, because everything to do with this is a very touchy subject, and maybe part of how they've done it is they've managed to build a safe space for themselves, and I don't just mean on the left, I mean on the right as well, where people get an audience of people that generally agree with them on most issues. And so, you know, there's the right-wing space of issues that matter and the right-wing space of opinions, and then there's the left-wing space of opinions and the left-wing space of issues. And they have overlaps for sure, and you can find common ground on those sort of things. Because you ever talk to, you know, someone that's on the opposite side politically from you, and you realise that they're actually a lot closer to you than you actually might think at first. They actually are a lot more on board with the sort of things that you want to do. They maybe just disagree with how you want to get there. They might disagree on certain issues, but they might agree on others. And I think with the internet and with the algorithm and with this continuing division and this endless culture war that's being propagated by the overall media and the governments and so on and so forth for the sake of getting re-elected and that kind of thing, that what it's leading to is a world where you can't agree with people. And I try to put that stuff aside and end up agreeing with people, but I still fall victim to it. Like when I go to talk to people and we get talking about politics and it's someone I maybe disagree with, and then I find myself like having to play the liberal in a conversation, and I don't like doing that. And then I aired this grievance to someone. They said, well, don't play the liberal. I'm like, but I think I am a liberal, so I kind of end up playing the liberal by default. It's hard for me to play a conservative because I'm not one. But I imagine a conservative probably has the same sort of thing. If they're having an argument with a liberal, they're like, oh, I'm having to play the liberal, I'm falling into the same set of opinions. And I don't know, maybe like, you ever notice if you talk to someone who's, say, more left-wing than you, that you feel a little bit more right-wing in the way you talk, and if you talk to someone who's more right-wing, you feel a little bit more left-wing in the way you talk. So you're not the same political like place on the spectrum at all times. It depends on who you're talking to, and that's maybe a good thing because it shows that you are flexible with your worldview, and you're able to take on new things and take on new information and apply it to your own life. And I feel like all you can really do politically is try and make your own local area as nice as possible. Engage in local politics, because with local politics you do have some level of not control or ability to make change, but you can do something more than on some industrial scale, international incident that you're just a speck among a million specks in a picture for a protest there'll be a headline going, look at these stupid protesters. And you'll just be another face on that with a load of people in the Daily Mail comment sections going, oh, look at those bloody idiots complaining about an issue. Meanwhile, they'll go out and do a protest where they'll complain about an issue, and then the Novara media comment section will be like, oh, look at those bloody people complaining about an issue. Oh, look at them bloody idiots. So there's no winning, man. And I feel like even doing this video, it's just me playing a sneering centrist, and I don't want to do that either. I don't want to put myself into a singular political position. I want to remain open to new ideas and new modes of thought, while at the same time not tolerating intolerance, and not allowing general democracy to falter and fail, and not allowing totalitarianism and authoritarianism to take hold, and populism to take hold, and all that sort of nasty stuff. So what do we do about this? How do we sort these issues out? I don't have the answer to that, and I'm not, even if I did have the answer, what good would me telling you the answer do? Because you probably just disagree that it's the right thing to do. You probably just think that we should do this other thing. And if we just did that, then it would all be sorted. Like Georgists, for instance, the political ideology of Georgism, basically advocates for introducing a singular tax on land value. And that would apparently help pay for a lot of the social welfare and general infrastructure that we kind of need. So people tend to advocate for that sort of thing. Then you've got socialists, they advocate for socialism, and you've got free market capitalists, they advocate for what they advocate for, and we all have various ways of trying to sort the world out. Because I think generally we all want good things to happen. We all want the world to get along, and I think even though it's a bit of a joke, oh yeah, we're all going to come together and sing Kumbaya. Like, I think we would all agree it would be nice if we did that, right? Like, sure, it's not going to happen, but wouldn't it be nice if it did? Wouldn't it be nice if we all just kind of got along and, put aside all of our differences? But obviously it's never going to happen, because there's so many answers to why that's never going to happen that I couldn't even begin to get into it. And I think the reason I'm making this video is just to try and encourage you to shut off from the constant culture war that kind of gets shoved down your throat. Get off Twitter, get off Facebook, get off TikTok, get off YouTube. Just click not recommended on any political bullshit that comes your way. Hit don't recommend channel on bloody Fox News or CNN or BBC News or Vouch or I don't know, the Daily Wire or whoever, right? Just don't engage with it. Shut it out, because you'll be so much happier in the long run if you don't think about politics. When the UK election came up, I said, right, I'm going to be political until the election happens, and then once the election's over, I'm done. And since the election, I've barely thought about politics. At the moment, I know there's apparently something going on with farmers' inheritance, Apparently they they raise the inheritance on farmers, but apparently it's like to do with corporate farms, but apparently it might also affect normal farmers. So there's a bit of a debate about that. And I'm sure I could go looking into it and it could turn out to be some kind of, I don't know, media spin to try and, make the Labour Party look bad for certain reasons, or maybe it's to try and do certain things or whatever. Maybe there's so many different facets to this issue that you can make an hour-long video, not even getting into the nitty-gritty of it. And what good would that video do for anyone, Because is Keir Starmer going to watch that and reverse the policy? I don't know, probably not. Look at the protest for the Iraq thing in 2003, when Tony Blair wanted to join George W. Bush in invading Iraq. 1.3 million people turned out for that protest, and we still went. So what could we possibly do? It doesn't seem like any number of people would be good enough. For the past year, people have been turning out in droves to protest the Palestine thing. Nothing's happened with that. All they want to do is stop us from sending arms to Israel to the tune of £500 million, which that could be £500 million that could be in the British domestic sphere of investment. It could be investing in our national infrastructure, or it could. 500 million was the cost of Bond Street Station when they built the Elizabeth line, so we could get another one of those. If we stop doing that. That's per year, so we could get Bond Street every year. But we're protesting these things day in and day out. I think they do it every week, but nothing's happened. And if anything, all that happens is you end up getting demonized for it. Look at Just Stop Oil. They're going out and doing all their sort of stunts and stuff, and all they're ending up doing is making people dislike the cause that they're actually trying to protest for. And then there's the whole thing of but if we just tried to do little protests, the acceptable protests, then they wouldn't report on them, which is true. They don't report on stuff when they, for instance, when, I don't think it was Just Stop Oil, but it was something like Just Stop Oil. They actually went into Parliament and they did a protest in Parliament, which I think is where you should do it. And it got no media coverage. But then they go and paint bloody Stop Oil in red on front of HSBC, and they get coverage all over the shop where people go, oh, do you think Just Stop Oil have gone too far? And it's not that I'm supporting Just Stop Oil. I don't like the way that they operate, but I do support the cause of, trying to end, general reliance on fossil fuels and, moving towards renewables, because we're going to run out of gas and petrol and oil and coal at some point. It's not a renewable resource, so why don't we start investing in renewable stuff so that we can think about the long-term future? But, what are we going to do? How are we going to sort these issues out? Me sitting here chatting shit about them isn't going to do anything. You sitting there commenting about it or getting incensed by whatever political video you clipped before this isn't going to do anything about it. So why keep this charade up? Why keep doing this? Why keep getting angry over things that you can't sort out? And that at the end of the day might not even affect your life necessarily. I've seen people get annoyed about the immigration situation in America, and they're not American. Why are you getting annoyed about that? It's not let the Americans get annoyed about that. If you want to get annoyed about immigration, there's immigration going on here you can get annoyed about if you really want. I just don't get it. I don't understand. Well, I do understand, and I've tried to actively shut myself away from it, and I would encourage you to do the same. Tune this stuff out, because all it's designed to do is make you upset. Because hate spreads faster than love. It really, really does. That's why these things do so well, and that's why positive good news like kitten gets saved from tree, or £8 billion got donated to a hospital. That's why those things don't get media coverage necessarily. Not to nearly the same extent as, oh, this bombing just happened and 20 people died. That's going to go all over the shop. And the idea is you need to stay informed so you can keep yourself safe, because the idea would probably be in case there's a terrorist attack near you, that maybe your family could have possibly been involved in that terrorist attack. So that's why they do tell you about it. But are you going to be able to keep up with every single terrorist attack that happens across the world? If you've got family in France and you've got family in, I don't know, Syria, you've got family in China, you've got family wherever there's terrorist attacks going on. I feel like if there was a family member of yours that was in those sort of areas, you would start looking it up yourself anyway, just to make sure that people are safe. I don't know. I feel like that's the main reason that technically news exists. That's probably the reason that we're told that to follow the news, and that's the reason to stay informed. But how does that help for every single political issue? You know, I mean, those sort of things you're going to find out about anyway, because you can't escape those sort of things. You'll get told about it. You'll see it on the news when you go past Carphone Warehouse. You'll see it in a newspaper when you get on the train and you pick up the little Metro newspaper or whatever your town's equivalent is. You'll find out eventually anyway, if you really need to know. So don't worry so much about it. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be it. It's a very difficult video, this, to actually make, because I feel like this is a very controversial subject, and I feel like what I'm saying is like almost counteractive to the general attitude towards politics at the moment, which is you need to stay informed, you need to keep up with what's going on, and you know, you need to be another player in this culture war where you can argue for your case and your ideal world, because you want that world to happen. And you know, we all want the best world to happen. The difference is we all see that as a different thing. And I'm at that point where I would rather just try and make my own local community better. So that's why I'm saying engage in local politics, because you have the power to do stuff with that. Your vote actually means something in amongst 20,000 people compared to 20 million people. Sure, it might not be massive, but it's at least visible. So yeah, try and make your own location better. Try and form your own community with people that you love and cherish and people that you care about. Try and find people that are like-minded, and try and just keep yourself happy, and try and tune this stuff out, because it's not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you absolutely fucking miserable. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care, everybody. Leave your comments below on what you think about trying to tune out of politics. I presume at some point you've tried to tune out of politics before, and then you're going to get back into politics. I know I'm going to get back into politics at some point. But yeah, let me know what you think, particularly if you're American, because I know Trump's just got in. So I imagine you probably are thinking, oh God, 4 years of hearing about bloody Trump, I'm going to just tune out of politics. So if you have thoughts about this in any capacity, or if you have some critiques of what I'm saying, please do respond and please leave them. Let's try and get a discussion, a good faith, well-rounded and civil discussion going on about this, and try and avoid the political, you know, argument sort of thing where it's like the right-wing people versus the left-wing people, because this isn't a political partisan issue. This isn't us talking about, you know, Palestine, or this is us talking about Ukraine, or us talking about immigration, or this is talking about trans rights or whatever. This is just us trying to cover the idea of engaging with politics and your own mental health. So yeah, take care everybody, have a good rest of the day. Take the news app off your phone, even ground news, which can be all right, but I even worry that that's some kind of like, you know, weird sort of partisan thing, which is just disguising itself as bipartisan. You got to be on the lookout in that kind of regard. Just stay conscious, but don't let it dominate your own thought process in your mind. That's what I'll say. Stay conscious, but don't let it control you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the music scene, particularly in London, and how it can often feel like, particularly if you're young like me, that the past was this greater time, that we are now, you know, we're past the peak of, you know, culture and community within urban spaces, and it sort of feels like maybe these communities are dying. Particularly, I'm talking about the music community within London, you know, the various music scenes that kind of go on. It feels like you can over-romanticize the past very, very easily, and you can find yourself lost in you know, the sands of time, I suppose. But I wanted to challenge that a little bit with this video and just talk about, you know, things that I've sort of noticed within the music culture within London at large, fun interactions that I've sort of had with people and just that kind of thing. Because, you know, if you get out of your comfort zone and you talk to people and you get out there and you see what's going on, there is so much happening that to say that, you know, the music scene is kind of fading or faltering, to me implies that it used to be so immense. Can you even imagine how immense it must have been? If this isn't even the best version of it, and it's still this expansive and full of amazingly talented and interesting people that you know, and depending on who you meet, that might be a new friend or a new connection or whatever, or new bandmate, you know? So I'm going to first talk about the Isleworth music scene, which I think is the one that I first started with. So there's places there like the Cross Lances, there's the Red Lion, I think the Milford Arms used to do one, I don't think they do it anymore. There's the Rising Sun, there are more that I'm forgetting, but that's just a few of them. Oh, there's the Northumberland Arms, so that's 5 just off the top of my head. There's one that's sort of a bit further in Old Isleworth that I can't remember the name of, but it's on a little bridge sort of thing by a river. That was really nice, run by a guy called Tim. At least when I went there, it was run by a guy called Tim. And yeah, there's so many beautiful open mics in particular, and little gigs and things like that within West London and London as a whole. And these ones in particular, they all have different sort of vibes to them. So the Cross Lancers, for instance, is a very easygoing place, and they make you feel very comfortable compared to, say, the Red Lion, which has a lot more sort of higher spec musicians going there. You have like very, very talented people going to that one. There's a lot more like bands and rehearsals, like things that people have rehearsed. A lot of bands that go gigging will do an open mic there to sort of promote their gigs at the Red Lion. So a lot of people do that kind of thing, compared to smaller open mics, which are more about hobbyists coming together to just embrace their craft. So you have an awful lot of different types of musicians all coming together and networking and communicating with one another and exchanging ideas. You know, some of them are into the folk stuff, some of them are into the heavy metal stuff, some of them are into rap, some of them are into rock, some of them are into all these different things, right? And there's so much diversity with regards to what kind of music is being made, right? I was filming one of these sort of videos. Basically, I was just going over all the songs on the album I've just put out, and I was just talking about the messages behind the songs and what they meant to me and where I was when I, wrote them and all that kind of stuff. And as I was in the middle of recording that, a guy came up to me and we just got talking about, because he was asking, do you do music and stuff like that? Do you shoot music videos? And he was a rapper. I looked up some of his stuff, really, really talented guy. I've done a few, grime, drill, rap music videos. I'm sorry, I don't massively know the difference between grime and drill. I think grime's a bit faster and a bit more electronic in its production, but I'm probably wrong. I've done a few of those kind of videos. They're really fun to do, actually, because you just get to hang out with a load of fun people and just like shoot a music video, and you can kind of just have fun with it, just doing like crazy kind of movements of the camera, and it's all going to come together in the edit. So it's a lot of fun doing that sort of video, and it's a lot of fun just talking to different types of people and finding different types of music. Like, I'm not particularly a big grime drill guy. I like a bit of Loki, a bit of Akala, stuff like that, but I've not really delved deep into it as an overall genre. And when I was hanging out with some of these guys, we were driving around in the car, and he was playing a song, and he was explaining to me what some of the lyrics meant, and there were multiple layers of thing to them in terms of the messages of the lyrics and the meanings behind individual, double entendres, but not as in like the sex way. I mean, as in like 2 different meanings from the same phrase kind of thing. And it was so cool to see that kind of thing, because it's a genre, when I was growing up anyway, I didn't massively respect. I just thought it was a load of just utter shite, to be honest. But as I got older and older, I realized that you can't sit there in your own little world and block everything else off, because we are all part of the same world, and this music's going to exist whether we like it or not. So why not like it, Why not? It's better to enjoy stuff than it is to not enjoy stuff. So I thought I'll try and open my mind. I've tried to get into various pop and R&B and rap and stuff like that. All genres that I don't massively love, but you've got to open your own mind up if you're going to see what's going on out there in the wider world, because everyone else out there has a different little niche carved out for themselves. That if you want to join in with them, you're going to have to compromise on where your niche is and bond together through the music that you both like. And if you're starting a band, for instance, you might have one guy who's into Korn and one guy who's into Motown and one guy who's into Led Zeppelin, And these 3 things, if you just shove those influences together, aren't really going to work. But if you come together and come up with some unique, holistic vision between the 3 of you, then you might find something really interesting that has an audience, because you only find out by trying something new. Now, about the community within this space, I feel like there is just an unending amount of various people to meet and engage with, and I love doing it. I love going out and just talking to people and networking and stuff like that. Let me tell you one story, which was this is a bit of an embarrassing one, but so I met a guy at some event, I can't remember what, and we exchanged numbers, and he said, "Oh yeah, come to my next gig. It's like free entry and stuff, and then like, we can talk a bit afterwards about like doing some music or doing some music videos or something like that, and I'll introduce you to the band." And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take my camera and take some photos of them. So I was there in the crowd, and I took all the photos of them, and really amazing performance. There was one guitar solo that the guitarist did. It was truly mind-blowing. And then afterwards, we're sat out in the smoking area, right? The manager of the band is there, the entire band is there, and I come up to them to start showing them the photos so that we can get some kind of networking thing going. I'm drinking a Beavertown, right? This is back when I was drinking. So I have a Beavertown, and the lead singer also has a Beavertown, right? The pale ale fucking thing. It's too expensive. But anyway, it's I'm drinking it. I'm drinking my beer, and I'm showing them the footage on the camera, right? I'm showing them the various photos, going like, oh, this one could be good for your social media, or this one could be a good profile picture, or oh, this one really captures the bassist like in a interesting light, shows her sort of happy or whatever. And I'm drinking my beer, and like the lead singer is like looking over at me. She keeps making eye contact with me, and I'm sort of thinking, is she like coming on to me? Because she kept drinking, like taking sips of my beer, and I just kind of kept looking at her, kind of thinking, is she coming on to me? Is this like a move? So that sort of thing. So I thought, oh, well, I'm not really into her. Is that kind of, no, it's just not for me. And so I start drinking the drink more, and after about 2 minutes and probably about, I don't know, 10 sips, she kind of goes, "Sorry, why are you drinking my beer?" And I said, "What?" She said, "You're drinking my beer." And I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "Yes, you are." I was like, "This is my beer." She said, "No, that's your beer." And she pulled up this beer that was honest to God, had this much in it. It had nothing in it, right? So I looked at the beer, I looked at her, and my brain just froze and nothing came out. It was like you'd flipped the electric switch off, and all the electricity connecting the neurons in my brain just stopped. And I sort of said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me get you another beer." So I went in, I got another beer, and I came out. They were all gone. Every single one of them. The entire band fucked off. So I think I might have blown that one. But, you live and you learn. You're not always going to make, the best decisions. You're not always going to do everything perfectly. But at the same time, that's part of the community. And the community is so large and expansive that doesn't really matter. That one little awkward situation, that's probably a story that she's told at some other event or to other people. Like, oh, this bloody guy was just drinking my beer. And, now I've told it on this thing. And, sometimes these things happen. Sometimes you have little embarrassing moments. But, you can't let that stuff paralyze you. You can just only keep going, because there's so many opportunities out there, particularly in London, but any city really, with a music scene. I know some cities, particularly like in America or like in the middle of nowhere, they're very specific to one genre, and so you might have to adopt to that genre, which I feel very sorry for the people that have to do that, because I can't do that. I make what I make, and that's what it sounds like, to be honest. And whoever I make it with, it sounds a bit like a combination of both of us. So I know it's not like I know it's easy to say and not easy to do, and I can empathize with like people that live in the middle of nowhere and they can't do some of the stuff that I'm able to do living in London. But I think there are probably an awful lot of people that are living in London that are beating themselves up, feeling like they can't do things now because there isn't a music scene anymore, because it's gone, because the complexities of the modern age have come in and destroyed everything, right? And I just want to say that bollocks. That's bullshit, and it's not true. And if you start to think like that, then you're just going to upset yourself, and you're going to close yourself off, and you're going to treat the world like it's way too big to even approach, when it's not. The world is quite small. It's small enough that you can tackle it if you give it enough fucking like elbow grease and, you know, enough determination. And in my opinion, I think that the beauty of coming together as a group of musicians or artists in general is to have these human connections. It's not just about the making of the music or the making of the film, or whatever. It's about the emotional resonance that you provide with one another during the creation of these things. When, for instance, you go out and play a gig with, you know, a few other band members, that's amazing. I remember there was this place called the Rhythm and Booze in Battersea. We used to go there. It was open for only like 4 months, and the reason for that was because it was dead. I really loved it, but it was like you would be there, and it would literally be you, your friends, one other group of friends, and the manager of the pub, and that would be it, right? And you would all just sit together and you would just have a laugh together. And it was like a jazz bar kind of place, and you would play like smooth jazz. I played there twice, desperately trying to keep up on bass with a bunch of musicians who really put me to shame with their like proper classical training and like their absolutely amazing improvisation abilities. Just the ability to just transpose things from like scale to scale, from chord sequence to chord sequence, and just like know a song just off the top of their head, and just like any song and just know it. I thought that was insane, and I really, really respected them. And it was so much fun. We did this one thing, my friend Toby, he likes to play the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song, Power Love. He likes to play that at like open mics and gigs and stuff like that. So we did a version where it was him on vocals, me on bass. I don't know any of the other people's names, but there was someone on guitar, there was someone on piano, and there was someone on flute. So we did the main bit of the song, and then we just jammed over the song. We turned what's like a 3-minute song into like this 10-minute massive thing where we all took turns taking a solo, you know? And it was so cool. We just like Toby would point at people and be like, it's time for the flute guy to do a solo. Bit of piano, a bit of guitar, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing. And the community that came together, and when I would talk to some of those people, they were so engaged with other parts of the community that I haven't even experienced yet. You know, like these public jams that you can sort of just join in. You just take a guitar somewhere like a underpass alley sort of place in central London, that kind of thing. And you just join in with a jam. They'll just be jamming some fun songs, and you just come along. Oh yeah, have you got some ideas? Yeah, wow, do them, you know? And that's what it's like. And all you can do is try and foster that community and nurture it and allow it to be its true self, the community of musicians in this amazing city. And if you're living in a different city, then you can try and find this sort of thing for yourself. It just requires getting out of your comfort zone. Try and find, here's a good tip, try and find a friend who does a lot of this open mic sort of stuff. Because if you can ride on their bandwagon for a little bit, that helps, like, in terms of, you know how a rocket needs like fuel to take off, but once it's in space, it can kind of just go on its own. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So they're the rocket fuel for you, if that makes sense. Like, you know, the first time I went to an open mic, I was terrified. I was absolutely shitting myself, and I barely knew how to play the guitar, and I somehow barely managed to scrape by. And, you know, I got a bit of a kind of thing, and I appreciated that, because I just did what I tried to do, and I took a risk, and it doesn't matter if it paid off or not. What matters is that I took the risk, and not, you know, that I just stayed in my comfort zone. And if I hadn't done that kind of thing, then I wouldn't have gone further and further. So it's fine to embarrass yourself on stage. It's fine to be a wreck. People are going to forget about it as you improve, you know. They'll remember, oh, you remember that time when you fucking did that song, and it was like that guy said that thing. It was like, you know, people will remember those little things, but they'll just be fun little stories, you know. That's all it is. That's all an embarrassment is. It's a fun little story for the future. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add. I don't think there is necessarily. So I'm going to close it off here. Thank you so much for watching this. If you are a musician in the London area, then please get in touch, because I'm working on an album called Decisions on Another Language. I have released all the demos, but I want to record it with a band, and maybe because the bandmates and so on will take it in a different direction as well. So we would have a lot of fun with that. Yeah, that's going to be all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, did you notice this? You thought that was just there. You thought that was just there the whole time, but I put it there. Also, this is like an abandoned thing here. Oh yeah, we were filming here the other day. This is day 5. When I do the day 5 as complete video, I am literally, that's what all this fucking gaffer tape's about. That's why there's all this fucking gaffer tape here. This was me. So yeah, this place is a dump anyway, so that's why it's cool. Take care. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about HD, high definition video, and how it's not necessarily the be all and end all for all forms of cinema, video, media, etc. So in the past, when I was growing up, we watched everything on a VHS, and a VHS plays everything back in this really quite low quality. I think it's 240p or maybe 360p or something like that. It's not the super high mega HD, right? And then you got DVD, and I think DVD was 480p, and then you got Blu-rays, which I think started off as 720p and then gradually became 1080p, and 1080p is kind of the default that we have today. If you're watching this video, you're probably watching it on 1080p, unless you're on like mobile data or something. You'd probably set it to a bit lower like I do. I tend to set all YouTube videos to 144p if I'm watching it on mobile, because like it's on a tiny screen anyway. I'm not really missing much, in my opinion. I'm not missing, seeing the little like blemishes here. I don't see the texture on this if it's set to 144p. This is just a grey strip, and this is just a grey slab, and I'm just an array of pixels. And that's okay, because the reason that you're watching this isn't for the highest fidelity of the visuals, to see all of this, to see every one of those little bricks in that thing behind me. You're not here to watch that. You're here to listen to the things that I'm trying to say, and you don't need super high fidelity video to accomplish that. Where HD is useful is in something like a nature documentary, for instance. You don't really want to be watching a nature documentary in 144p or 360p or something like that. And when HD came around, it was really beneficial for documentaries in general, because with that you're trying to capture reality as it is, and when you want to do that, HD is really beneficial because it's the closest to what our eyes actually see. Our eyes apparently see in something like 8K. I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, but we can see in that kind of quality. So once we get to 8K, when we've got 1080p as being the standard now, once we get to 8K being the standard, there is no further we can really go in terms of what our eyes can actually process. We're not going to be able to get anything much better than this. It's the same way our eyes see in something like 150-ish frames a second. Again, these numbers aren't correct. I'm not saying that these are the stats and these are the figures and this is exactly the way it is. But the point I'm making is that our perception of the world is something that technology is quite rapidly catching up to, and at some point in the next 20 years it's going to surpass what our own eyes and our ears can actually perceive. Now, what's going to happen when we reach that point? I can't say for exactly, in any capacity, but I do think that as HD has started to really take over, and now 4K is kind of coming out, you notice how 4K has been around now for over 10 years, and it hasn't taken nearly the same foothold in our media landscape as HD has. Why is that? Well, 4K for a start is an extremely large file size. It's quite a hassle to edit with, and it's a hassle to shoot because it fills up your SD cards quite quickly, and it's generally a bit cumbersome to actually work with, and then to view as well. You need to have quite high internet if you want to stream it, or you need to have a 4K telly, and you need to have 4K this, and you need to have a Ultra HD Blu-ray player and all this sort of stuff. And even if technology gets to the point where 4K is just as easy to use as HD is to us today, I don't think it's going to take the same foothold in the media landscape, because With 4K, what can you see that HD can't show you? Well, you can see the texture on things a little bit more cleanly, right? And you can see the texture on people's faces a lot more cleanly. Now, what happens when you've got a Hollywood movie where you've got loads of actors who are all very, image conscious, and they've got, blemishes, they might have a spot or a pimple or some cracked skin or some signs of aging and wrinkles and stuff like that. When you can, zoom into their face, you're seeing all their imperfections, and they don't want you to see those imperfections. In fact, I imagine a lot of actors are very displeased with the idea of being shown in, say, 4K or 8K. And some probably don't even massively like HD, but they've kind of gotten over it, and now they're just like, okay, fine, it'll be in HD, but not 4K, yeah? And then at some point they'll probably be okay with 4K, but not 8K. But once we get to 8K, that is what our human eyes can see. What are we going to do after that point? Are we going to do laser surgery on our eyes to make it so that we can see in 16K? Then what happens when we get to 16K for video, and that's the standard? What are we going to do? How high definition do we really need to go? Where 4K is useful is for if you want to sort of hone in on a specific thing. If you want to zoom in post and you want to work with the footage in post. I don't have a 4K camera, but if it was a 4K camera, I could just sort of zoom in. I could go up to 200 scale. This, at the moment, you're seeing this is 100 scale. So 200 scale would be taking a 4K video and making it 2K, which 2K is basically 1080p. It's a tiny bit better than 1080p. It's not exactly the same, but it's more or less the same. And it's splitting hairs really at that point. And when you get 8K, it can be quite useful because you can sort of digitally zoom into something that's really small, and you don't lose any fidelity when you're presenting it in HD 1080p. So that is a real advantage of 4K, of 8K, and once we start getting to 16K cameras coming out, or 32, 64K cameras far into the future, that's where it'll be useful, because you'll be able to do like the Blade Runner zoom and enhance thing. And you'll be able to properly actually get into like seeing someone's face and identify their face in like the reflection of a puddle of water on the ground, and you'll be able to actually see them very clearly and make out who they are. And that would be kind of cool. And that's a decent thing to have, but I think when you're chasing these high definitions, it's getting to a point where we're losing the point of having this technology, because what's the point of having the technology if we've got no real use for it? Now, horror movies are something that, I'm not a massive horror guy, but whenever I've watched a horror movie, I've enjoyed myself, and I find that if you try and watch a horror movie in HD, it kind of loses its edge, because everything about horror is about, the fear of the unknown in general. It's about not seeing stuff rather than seeing stuff. So if you put, say, The Thing or Halloween into 4K, you're kind of losing something, because the graininess and the low fidelity of these works is what makes them so interesting and so fun to watch, because you don't see everything. You don't know what's going on. You don't know like what's happening in that little corner. You can't see the monster through the dark, because if you can, in that sort of high fidelity, you'll be able to make out that it's just a load of plastic tubing and some prop design, which the prop masters don't really want super high fidelity video either, because then it shows off their props, and visual effects artists don't want 4K and 8K and all this stuff, because it makes it much easier to actually tell the issues with the CGI. If you're seeing like a CGI thing in 480p, all the imperfections with the CGI kind of get masked by the artifacting and the compression that comes with exporting that video in 480p. Now, we can keep doing this. We can keep improving our quality and getting things higher and higher and higher in terms of their fidelity, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we need to be doing this, and I feel like at a certain point in the future, it's going to be a lot more acceptable to just release a film in 240p or 480p, and having a definition to your film will become like having an aspect ratio to it. So in the past, your film was the aspect ratio that it was in, right? You didn't really choose an aspect ratio to it. If you were filming on 70mm, that was the aspect ratio it was going to be. If you were shooting on super 16mm, that was the aspect ratio you would get out of it. Is it in 4K? Well, that's because of the limitations via the technology and because of the medium that you actually want to put it on. You don't have an artistic reason to be showing something in 16:9 or 18:9 or 2.35 or 4:3 or whatever. But now you can make those decisions. And I think going forwards into the future, definition is going to join aspect ratio in being a creative decision for people to take on. If you're making a horror movie, you'll be able to just say, and you can do it now actually, if you're making a horror movie, you can make it in 360p or 480p and really try and hide the imperfections in, say, the props or the actors, and like get that sort of fear of the dark kind of quality going to it, and actually help use the definition to build the tension, because it's what you don't see that scares you, not what you do see. And then you could, if you're making a nature documentary, then yeah, 4K is brilliant for that sort of thing, because you want to be able to make out that monkey in as like high fidelity as possible. You want to see every hair on that monkey's arm, you know, because you're there to observe, and it's about what you do see in a nature documentary, which is completely the opposite of, say, a horror movie. If you're releasing a thriller movie, then it could depend on the nature of the thriller movie, you know, to have it in HD or 720 or 4K or whatever, right? It could be kind of whatever you want it to be. Now, I don't know when this kind of adoption of video definition is really going to take off. I think first what needs to happen is we need to be more accepting of low quality video, and we already kind of are with, say, JPEG compression, and you know, we upload a video that's re-upload and re-upload, etc, etc, etc. You've got memes, for instance, which are all extremely low resolution, and that's kind of it feeds into the charm of them. And you've got these internet videos that are filmed on webcams and stuff like that, but you don't mind because it's about the content itself, not the quality of it. It's like, if you go to see the Mona Lisa, you're seeing the Mona Lisa from the other side of the room, behind loads and loads of people, behind a big pane of glass, but you still take away from the fact, it's like, fucking hell, I just saw the Mona Lisa, oh, that was amazing, I loved it, you know? Whereas if you know, and you didn't see it in the highest fidelity, but you can just go on Google Images, search the Mona Lisa, find the largest version of the image, and then zoom right in. You can see all the cracks in the paint, and you can see the little, details and all that. But you don't necessarily need to. It's not about the shading of the Mona Lisa's face. It's about the overall image and the context to why that image is so popular, and the artistic expression behind it and all that sort of stuff. It's not about the detail of that exact thing, you know? Like, the interesting thing about this video, for instance, is me talking, not the texture on this, or the texture on this, or the texture over there, or the texture on my face, right? And I'm not saying that this is like an interesting monologue, like, but that's the thing that you're here for. That's the thing that you're watching this for. You're not watching it for the high fidelity. But if this was a nature documentary, you would be watching it for the texture on this and the texture on this and the texture back there, because you'd be trying to take it all in, because you want to observe the world, which is the point of a documentary. Now, again, as I said, I don't know when this adoption is going to happen, but I do think it's going to happen in the next 15, 20 years max. And we're going to start seeing the odd movie that isn't, you know, maybe even in HD. Maybe there'll be a revival of, say, 480p or VHS or DVD kind of quality. And for me, in my opinion, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing, that we're going to start experimenting with the form in new and interesting ways, and taking what were before limitations and turning them into artistic expression. And I'm really excited to see what happens there. I mean, my film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, I'm using aspect ratio in kind of a fun way. I'm having some that are in 4:3, I'm having some that are in this, like, in between 4:3 and 16:9. Got a couple scenes that might be in 1:1, stuff like that. And, you know, some of the film is filmed on these little digicams, so you kind of get this really low quality, grainy, late 90s, early 2000s kind of look to it. And all of this stuff, I think, helps feed into it. And that's the beauty of making things, of making art, is that you can try weird little experiments and see what works, see what doesn't, and just have a lot of fun with it. And that's what I think we should be doing going forwards. And I think that's going to be the case for definition in video. I think definition will become a tool for the creator rather than a, you know, something on a brief where it's like, you need to make this in 4K, because I've had so many like clients in the past that talk about how they want 4K, but you kind of get the sense that they don't really understand why they want 4K. They just know they want 4K because they want to be able to say that their thing is in 4K, even if 4K doesn't benefit their content in the slightest. So, you know, you go and get a 4K camera just for that, and then you film it in 4K to appease them. And yeah, I don't think that we're going to continue chasing the most superior quality that we can get. And that's already happened, because if we were going to continue this trend of just improving technologically, we would have adopted 4K en masse by now. And I know that 4K is out there. I know that lots of films are released in 4K. I know there's lots of YouTube videos that are in 4K. And I know 4K is commonplace, but I don't think it's been adopted in the same way that HD has, and I don't think it ever will. I think it will become another thing that we can use. If you want to make a film in 4K and it benefits from being in 4K, then release it in 4K. But if it isn't benefited by the high fidelity video, then personally, I don't see the point in releasing it in 4K. And maybe it'll be better in 720p. Maybe it'll be better in 144p. Go on your little settings wheel, right, and set this to 144p. You can't see shit. You can't see any of this, you can't see any of this. My face is like probably 6 pixels, but I don't think any of that really matters, because it's about getting the idea, right? Because you can just sit back and watch it from further away. You don't have to get right up close and inspect everything. You know, the beauty in the world in real life is the detail. And when you're trying to replicate real life, then the detail is the most important thing. But if you're trying to tell a story that's a piece of escapism, that's a piece of art, that's trying to tell something that isn't real, then I don't really see what the point of chasing that detail is. And I think it's a fruitless task that we're just going to carry on. We'll carry on doing it forever if that's what we're going to do. And eventually we'll just be chasing, you know, it's like how the PS5 wasn't really that much better than the PS4, which wasn't that much better than the PS3. But the PS3 was a fair bit better than the PS2, and the PS2 was a hell of a lot better than the PS1, and the PS1 was a hell of a lot better than the SNES, which was better than the NES. And it's gotten to the point where it's smaller and smaller increments. I can already imagine what PS6 quality video games are going to look like. I can't imagine, if we were in the year 2000, I couldn't imagine what PS3 graphics would look like. It would be like out of my imagination. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this quite rambly video on high definition, low definition, 4K, etc., etc. Put your thoughts in the comments below. If you've wanted to be making something that isn't, you know, chasing the super high fidelity, then let me know. And if you've released something that's in like 8K, let me know as well. See what works for you, see what doesn't, and it's really important to do that. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.